My name is Walter. I own 3 different local home service businesses in 3 different states with a combined review total of over 1,200 reviews. We're going to be diving into each of these viral videos on local businesses. We're going to see what they do really well, what they do poorly, what their revenue actually probably is. We're going to look into the reviews. We're going to look into the frequency at which they're getting reviews to see if it's actually a big business. We're going to look at their website traffic. We're going to use all real data that we can possibly find to figure out what this business is actually doing, if all of this is just for views, or in reality, if this business is actually crushing it. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to do a spotlight on Triangle Painting of Raleigh, North Carolina. There's a spotlight of their business on Upflip. And we're gonna be reviewing it. This guy's making $4 million a year. We're gonna look into the data, see what they're doing well, see what they're doing poorly, look at their reviews and see if they're actually crushing it.
14, 15 years old, he would have us out there just looking at how things were done. And by the time I turned 17, 18, I got to work over there a little bit. So there was a lot of seeds planted growing up before I became a business owner.
All right, well, I want to take a look at how you...
I think that's really important. I think there's a lot of people, when both of your parents have a W-2, 9 to 5, it's really hard to break out of that mold and think that that is possible for yourself to create your own business. It makes it actually very difficult. It's one of those nature versus nurture things. And people don't talk about that really at all in the entrepreneurial space. But like having someone that you know, especially a parent that has started a business, plants that seed in your mind when you're a young kid that it's entirely possible. And I think it's incredibly important.
You guys did the job on the guest house. Take a look at the backyard and continue the conversation.
Let's do it.
Can you give us a quick run through of your year-over-year revenue, year one through what you expect to do in 24?
Yeah. So when I first started out, it was definitely smaller. It was about, I think I'd made right under 100K. Second year was 130 something thousand.
That's a small difference.
Yeah. Year 3 was definitely better. That's when I first started hiring more people on my team, but still small. It was like 338,000, I'll say.
I like how he keeps it realistic. There's so many people that I see on here that are like, yeah, my first year I did 500K, just a little. No, dude, when you're starting off, especially in home services, you're making 100 grand. That's honestly like good. That's incredible. And you need to take pride in that and be honest about that. And so people can actually trust you. Because when you come out the gate swinging, saying, yeah, we made 400 to 800 grand our first year. No, you didn't, man. You didn't. You made 100 grand and you've grown it since then. So just take pride in that.
The next year is when I invested in coaching, training, programs, SOPs, and we skyrocketed from that 300 something to over $1 million. Wow. It was like 1.1 something million.
That is nice.
The next year, we just continued to grow and hire people and build out the business. We went to 2.1 something million. And then last year in 2023, we did 3 million. This year right now, and we're about halfway through the year, we've already done 2 million. So we're on track for 4 million this year. That was the plan.
What kind of margins are you shooting?
That's like, for a painting company, that's actually unbelievable. That's incredible. Not unbelievable in a bad way, like I don't believe him, but that's unbelievably impressive to get to those numbers. There's very few painting companies, and we're going to look into the local analytics data to see where they stand versus competitors. There's very few painting companies in any major metro that are doing that much money. Bottom line.
For as a business operator in this industry?
Well, for me, a healthy net profit would be 20% or better. But when you're first starting out, you don't have the overhead and as many variable expenses, so your net profit's going to be higher. But for gross profit, we always shoot for 50% or better on gross. That's after labor, materials, all that go out. So right now, we're actually about 24% net profit. So if we did that on 4 million, you do the math. It's really good.
Almost $1 million.
That's very healthy money.
Gotcha. Guys, for those of you watching, tell us about your profit margins.
Okay, yeah, I hear that. If you're getting paid $20,000 for 10 days of work with 5 guys, that's $2,000 a day for 5 guys. There's no way you're at 50% margins. There's just no way. Either you underbid that job, or you had less than 5 guys, or it didn't take all of 10 days, or you don't hit the 50% margin, because there's simply no way that makes sense. 5 guys is going to be incredibly expensive in labor, and all the paint for a $20,000 job to do a shed and a house is going to be pretty substantial. I just $2,000 a day at 5 guys. What are you paying these guys?
If you're in the painting industry, it'd be really cool to know what you're achieving. If it's higher than what Brandon's mentioning, how are you achieving it? Love to read below. All right, let's go check out an active project.
Yeah, so the next project, it's just an exterior trim project.
Let's shoot over there.
Okay.
I want to go back to the fact that your business has over 250, now it's like 260 reviews, all perfect 5 stars.
Yeah.
Tell us about the customer service behind that, how you achieve that kind of success.
Yeah. Let's see how these stack up compared to other Raleigh, North Carolina painting shops. So they're third in demand based on the total reviews they have, the customer sentiment, the visitors to their website, and the frequency at which they're getting reviews. They are third, so it's entirely possible they're doing $4 million a year. Let's look more into the data. So if we see fastest growing, this is a percentage of Google reviews compared to the total they have. They're first. If you look at review growth, so of last year, who got the most Google reviews? This is the market distribution for painting companies in North Carolina, in Raleigh. Triangle has, what is that, like 5% of the market? So, it is entirely possible, especially at the clip they're growing. We click on them. They're the 5th fastest growing painting service in Raleigh, North Carolina. First in customer sentiment, 4th in total reviews, and 1st in relative growth. So you can see customer sentiment, as I said, 100% positive. That's incredible. You can see the seasonality, like the big spikes when they're busy, when they're slow, busy, slow. You can see what they do well, what they do poorly. Skilled and professional team. They're mentioning some of their subcontractors here. So EJ, David, and Taylor doing a really good job. Smooth project management. That's exactly what we just saw in the video. His project management styles and his operating services are really, really good, like world class. Here's some opportunities and here's some threats. Let's look at the biggest competitor, though. So his biggest competitor, far and away, is Gonzalez Painters. They're killing it. They're the fastest growing, the most in total reviews. And here's some strengths they have, but here's some weaknesses that Triangle can capitalize on. Inconsistent cleanup, potential communication delays, variable subcontractor quality, reliance on reviews. So I'm guessing that Triangle has way better subcontractors than these guys. Strong online reputation, overwhelmingly positive reviews. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool to look at. And we can look at just total reviews. This is what you just see on Google. If you were to just Google painting companies North Carolina, this is exactly what it would show, total reviews, right? And in this distribution, Triangle is fourth. They've got 367 now. So when this video came out, they had 200 something. Now they're all the way up to 367. And in total reviews, all the reviews that have ever been left for painting companies in Raleigh, they have 7% of the market, which is substantial. We'll look at website traffic. And Triangle is about, what is that? 7th in website traffic. Look at goals and objectives, action items. Market overview. And then here's the revenue projections based on all the review and website data. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these companies are making a good amount of money, but it stacks up. I mean, I totally believe that he's making $4 million a year.
Yeah, well, it all starts with your people, how you train them. We are big advocates on integrity.
Notice how people focus on the reviews? It's because it really matters. It is literally the report card that your business has with your community, is your Google reviews. It's a huge deal.
And when we say integrity, it's simply your word. If you tell a customer something's going to happen, we make sure it happens. And communication is huge to have a good business. Communication from what the sales rep is finding out the needs and wants of each customer. And then whatever that solution they come up with that customer, it's documented and it's given to the production manager and the painters so that once the team starts, everything the sales rep said is translated to the production team. So it's like a fluid process. And then we have a way, if something comes up, we have an SOP for handling that stuff.
What is that SOP? Give us a quick look into that.
Number one is listen, listen, listen. Number two is validate.
So you're going to need to have a pretty exhaustive standard operating procedure for a business where you subcontract out the work. When you have everyone in-house, everyone's under the same roof, and you know who people are. They come in every single day. When you're subcontracting out these jobs to people that are not your actual employees, you're going to need to have a very strict standard operating procedure so they understand what works, what doesn't work, how do you respond to clients when they say this, what needs to happen, what the quality of work needs to look like, how do you validate the work, how do you communicate with people? You're going to need to have a very exhaustive list because when you're subcontracting out that work, like a lot of times there is a lot of inefficiencies and there's a lot of inconsistencies in the work quality.
Okay.
Number three is provide solutions. And number four is follow through on those solutions.
Okay, 4 steps. We don't have the time to go into all of them right now, but why don't we do a quick 30-second dive deep into the first one, listen.
Sure.
At which point in the communication between the customer does that happen that you focus on, which then ultimately results in a 5-star review?
Yeah. Most customers are willing to give you some grace if something happens. You know, usually they'll give you one shot, hopefully, as long as it's not done too major. So the first step is to listen to the customer. And I mean really listen as if it's happening to you or your mother's house or to where the customer feels that you're taking it as seriously, if not more than they do. So the biggest problem is people don't feel heard. So you listen and then you write it down. So you write down what their concerns are, what the problems are, and you dig. You say, totally understand. Is there anything else? Is there anything else?
Yeah.
So you don't leave that undone or unturned. That's the first step, is writing it down. And then the next step is going into validating what they just said.
All right, we'll get into that later.
Good. This guy's been running his business.
As the Triangle Pro team can attest to, running a business can get messy, especially when managing your finances. From sending payments to budgeting to handling taxes, it can sometimes feel like you need 6 different tools just to... The long-awaited question, the advertising method that brought you a 10x return. Talk to us about that, and why is it so effective?
Well, we look at all of our marketing sources in a data point. Like we look at how much return it's getting, and whichever source is winning or doing really well, we usually try to increase the spend with that source because it's making sense.
Yeah.
Direct mail is one of those that's worked for us.
Interesting.
And I know it's
old school.
It's old school. So
this is so important, and 90% of business owners don't do this. It's called lead attribution. Where did that lead come from? And if you're not tracking that, you don't know what's working and what's not working. You don't know how to adjust your marketing budgets. You don't know where to spend money and when to not spend money, and when to just stop spending money completely because something isn't working. Lead attribution is incredibly important. This guy's done an amazing job of it, which is why his business is so big.
with direct mail, we got with a company that has a good, consistent campaign in the right months of the year. And we've spent probably $13K on direct mail this year, and we've made like $138,000. So that's how we have that. But
that's not bad.
With direct mail, sometimes it does take time because some people hold on to that mailer and then we'll call you a month or two later. But for us, it's just one of those sources that's worked. So we keep using.
The first question I have though is if you spent $13,000 and the return on ad spend was like a 10x and you got to 130K revenue out of that, why, if you're making $4 million this year, have you not spent $200,000? $13,000 is $1,000 a month. That's a drop in the bucket. Why aren't you quadrupling down on this source? It's clearly working. I don't understand.
Yeah, but we look at all of our sources like that, Facebook ads or Google ads. We want to see sources typically at a 10% marketing spend or better.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that fluctuates a little, but over the span of time and as an average, that's what we like to see.
All right, let's start with Brandon. Guys, thanks for submitting your questions. First question, if you could change one thing about your business, what would it be?
Our name. I would probably do it something more personal to me, like my last name in painting or something like that.
All right, what is...
Okay, totally disagree. I 100% disagree. If you're trying to sell a business and your name is Billy Rothschild, no one's going to buy Billy Rothschild's Painting LLC. Triangle Pro, I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's decent. It doesn't have anything specific to do with painting that I know of. That might be a nuanced thing in the industry of triangles or some part of painting, but I would rank it a 7 out of 10. You should keep it as something generic, because if you're trying to sell this business one day, and if you're at $4 million and $1 million in EBITDA, you're going to be able to get a great multiple on this business. And you will get a way worse multiple if it's just under your name, because the next business owner, the odds are slim they have the exact same name that you do.
a guiding principle you have returned to in times of uncertainty?
Play the tape through. Whatever
matter
action,
what.
especially if it's something you're not sure about, pause and play that tape through versus just rash decisions.
Okay. Biggest benefit of being your own boss?
Autonomy, freedom of time,
What about the worst part of being your boss?
a lot of responsibility.
What is a painting myth you'd like to bust?
This is a fun one. That brushing and rolling a house is always going to last way longer than spraying.
Couple more. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Wow. Albert Einstein.
Okay. What would you have with him? What kind of meal?
Italian.
Okay. Last one. What's the most impactful system you've implemented in the business?
That's
Probably our sales process, because the business runs with sales.
Yep.
So I would say having a very consistent, dialed-in sales process that's teachable and repeatable at scale.
Awesome. You did great. Boom.
This is what the best business owners focus on, is sales and marketing. Obviously, your actual processes have to be good. Your employees have to be good. Your quality of work has to be incredibly high. But the best operators realize they're a sales and marketing company that happens to do painting. They're a sales and marketing company that happens to do junk removal. They're a sales and marketing company that happens to sell donuts. Those are the businesses that immediately succeed.
How many jobs do you typically close on an average month?
On average, I'd say somewhere between 45 to 55 jobs per month.
How big is your sales team, and what's your involvement specifically as it is today?
Yeah, so we have 3 estimators or sales reps. And my role is pretty much right now the sales manager, if you will. So I train them, I do one-on-ones with them, have accountability, make sure other areas of their life are...
One of the things you need to think about too, when he said 45 to 55 jobs closed a month, he said a small percentage of what he does is commercial. As someone that does residential home service businesses, there are an incredible number of very low ticket items. People say, hey, I have a door that needs to be painted. I have this nick in the wall that needs paint over it. There's an incredible high volume of that. And so I thought the number of overall jobs that he would have done would have been a lot more than 45 to 55, including the fact that he doesn't really do commercial. And there's so many jobs that come up in home services where people just want to spend $300 to $1,000 on a really small job.
being, going good. And if there is ever an issue, my job is to do sales diagnosing with them. One little way we deal with that is, what is the most common objection you're hearing lately?
Right.
And based on those common objections, we can relate that usually back to a part in the process where you might not be building up enough value or not asking enough questions, etc.
What systems do you have in place to actually close these deals? When your sales rep go out there, they give them a quote.
Yeah.
What's the key?
We have a very tight sales process. Typically, it's like we have a great initial call, and then we have the sit down with the client where they have a good Q&A, discovery, basically find out the needs and wants. And then we typically do a walk around to build up the need with the client, and then definitely the close is a big deal. So part of that, how we close deals, is we present our estimates on site. So they're not wondering when they're going to get the estimate.
Get back to you tomorrow.
Exactly. And when we can sit down with them in person, we can find out if there's anyone else who has input, such as a spouse, make sure all their questions are answered and addressed at the time of the estimate. And so, when we try to ask for the job, if there's any objection or something they weren't sure about, we can try to address that there on the job.
So what's your top advice, out of all that we've talked about so far, to entrepreneurs?
There's a lot of businesses that do this incredibly well, where they get an amazing salesperson that looks just like that. He's got a uniform. He's super clean cut, fresh haircut going on. He shows up to the client's home and he gives them the most professional service humanly possible. And they think these guys are out of the world. And then what happens is they subcontract the job to people that might not speak English. They might be drinking on the job site. They might be using drugs. They're definitely not in company merch because they're subcontracting it out. They're just doing that for the visual. They're probably more than likely not wearing Triangle Pro. So that creates an issue where there's this lapse where once you get the sale, there's a lot of professionalism. And then once the job starts to actually occur and you begin to start in the work, there might be a slight lapse there, but it is a good business model.
who want to make more sales?
Well, I would say if you don't already have a system or a sales process, get one. Whether that's hiring a coach or hiring a company that has processes and systems in place, those are in your deals.
What are your advertising avenues? What is your monthly budget? What are you spending on what?
We pay SEO for SEO, and with that we do Google ads. I would say on average we're spending between $10,000 and $15,000 a month. And then with Facebook ads, I'd say we're spending anywhere between $2,000 to $4,000 per month, depending on the month. With direct mail, on the months that we're doing that, we're spending somewhere between $900 to $1,800 a month, depending on the campaign, depending on the time of year.
Gotcha. Which is like,
You said there's a 13 return on ad spend for direct mail. Why don't you just spend $1 billion on that? I don't understand.
what would you call it? The forgotten advertising method?
The forgotten advertising method, yeah, definitely. But we also do a couple other sources. We do Yelp, a little bit with Yelp ads. It's at a low budget, and we have somebody working on Yelp organically for us.
And the reason they spend so much more on Google Ads versus the other campaigns, Meta and direct mail are non-intent based. They're trying to make the customer aware of their branding. Hopefully you can get a few jobs. It's mostly a branding play instead of just a straight conversion play. For Google, you get high intent based consumers. So people are looking specifically for that serve. They're looking for painting. They're Google painting Raleigh, North Carolina. And Triangle Pro is paying in the Google PPC ads to show up first for those main keywords in order to get the business. So people are already looking for that product, which is why they're paying a lot in Google PPC.
We also have a networking group that we kind of pay a part of, and we try to build referrals and relationships through that.
Other business people there?
This will never work for me.
Yes, that is part of the 500 top performing real estate agents in the Triangle,
Oh, wow.
and we're one of their vendors. We pay about $350 a month for that. We go to 4 networking events a year with them, and then of course we have connections with different real estate agents. But I'd say the most lucrative.
Okay, the realtor agent thing, I personally just hate realtors. They're just the most annoying people that put in almost zero work and get paid out incredible rewards. I mean, 3% of a home that you just showed and listed that we saw on Zillow and everyone knows what the value is, I think is a total scam. And it just kind of attracts bad people. So a lot of the realtors that I've met aren't great. That might be anecdotal experience, but either way, I don't like networking with realtors. Sometimes they give you jobs, but they're also really cheap. So if you can't avoid and just go straight to HOAs, straight to developers, I think that may be a better plan.
For us, it's probably a toss-up between Google, the referrals, and Facebook.
All right, Brandon, so this is your office.
Yeah, this is it.
Can you give us a quick tour?
Sure.
Nice.
These are some little cubicles that we just dropped in. We didn't need a huge office because most of our people are on the go. So this is just where we kind of house team meetings.
I'm guessing right here.
This is the little conference room we have.
What's your overhead overall on a monthly basis for this office then? Let's jump into some numbers, just curious.
Sure. I think the rent here is about $1,200, and between utilities and things like that, we pay a few hundred extra bucks.
$1,200 a month for that place? Are you kidding me, bro? That is the deal of a century. $1,200?
How many employees do you have? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So currently we have 3 sales reps, a main office manager, and we have 2 production managers. We run a lean team, but everybody produces at a very high level. And most of our painters are actually subcontractors. So we have very high expectations for subs, onboarding processes, a lot of accountability with that.
That's interesting. Don't spill all the beans, guys. Let's find out later what it's like to set up a business this way where everybody who's on site is actually not an employee of Triangle Pro, but a contractor. So keep watching. What qualities do you look for when you're hiring employees specifically, not contractors? We'll talk about that later.
One of the biggest things we look for when hiring an employee is character. I have an onboarding document when I do actually recruiting. I sit down and interview people. What I look for in that is, do I actually like this person? You're going to be spending a lot of time with employees, arguably more time sometimes than your own family. Do I feel like this person is a person of integrity? Do I feel like this person could be a future leader in our company?
So how has your leadership style evolved as the operator? I mean, you're in the business year 6.
Yep.
Think about Brandon year 1 and year 6. What's the difference in terms of how you lead the team? Maybe certain things you've implemented that speak to your leadership to encourage morale and just for employees to keep growing.
In the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of leadership skills, had a whole lot of painting skills and things like that. So I was micromanaging a lot of stuff. But as I've evolved over time, I realized that's not really helping people. So allowing people more autonomy, that way they can make some mistakes if needed, so they'll learn from it.
That's a good point, yeah.
Another thing is when we first hired an employee now versus 6 years ago.
So many business owners are horrified of this. They just stay in the business because they assume no one can answer the phones like I can answer the phones. No one can paint a house like I can paint a house. No one can talk to the customer like I can talk to the customer. No one can do sales like I can do sales. Yeah, they can. And sometimes people are even better than you. You just have to do exactly what this guy's doing, create standard operating procedures, create processes, and put people in a place to win. And then take a step back so you can work on marketing and sales and growing the business while other people fulfill the call center, they fulfill the painting, and they do the actual work to make the business work.
We sit down and help them create what is important in every domain of your life, your health, your family. We believe the quote-unquote work-life balance is extremely important. My philosophy is if my employees are fulfilled in health, family, these other areas, naturally they're going to do awesome work.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing that we changed over time, and that's really helped my employees feel fulfilled.
That's amazing, Brandon. Let's get a little philosophical here.
Okay.
So philosophy with Brandon, you guys. Are you happy? Do you think money can buy happiness? Can you just share your perspective on that question?
Sure. Well, there's 2 questions. Am I happy? Definitely happy in my life.
Check. That's awesome.
Can money buy you happiness? Well, it depends on how you look at that. I believe that money Those guys are motivated to get each job done, get the project done, and it just works better for us. It's a more productive model if it's done professionally and at a high level like that.
Yeah, we've seen it with other interviews that we've done, I recall faintly. And are there any disadvantages to going that route?
There's pros and cons to everything. Certainly when you subcontract, you cannot tell them what to do. They're not your employee. So you just have to have a good working relationship.
Got it.
You have to make agreements where you're both on the same page. So I think that it starts with accountability. It starts with making sure that you're doing things the right way, whichever model that you're running. And for us, we've just found that subcontracting works more productively.
So what do you pay them then? That's the follow-up question.
So the way we bid our jobs, we estimate using production rates. It's time-based rates. So when we estimate a house, we kind of know what it's going to cost to produce something. And when we offer a subcontractor a job, we make them a good offer. It is a price. And if they agree to that, then they'll produce the job at that price.
Are they paying for the supplies, the paint, or you provide them with everything?
Yeah, this goes back to the wholesaling real estate model where it's like, are they aware of the price? And normally they're not. And that's kind of how subcontracting works in general, is the people that are getting paid to do the actual work don't know what you're getting paid. And a lot of times if they did, it would cause friction. Something to keep in mind, something to think about. That's a big problem when you contract out the work, is they don't really know exactly how much you guys are getting paid. And a lot of times there's a lot of friction in that conversation.
They just show up with their equipment and get the job done.
We do have a commercial account where they can purchase paint for their jobs if it's one of our projects under our account, but they have their own equipment, their own ladders, their own vehicles, their own sprayers, all that stuff they provide themselves.
What qualities do you look for when you're looking to partner up with a contractor, and how in the world are you doing quality control with 14 teams? You've got 14 subcontractors right now that you're working with, so give us some insights on that.
Very good questions. Well, just like when we hire our employees, we look for character. When we interview them, we make sure that they're dressed professional, that they come across as somebody we would like to have in our own family's house. So we're looking.
Dude, for painting, have you ever met a painter that is professional? I don't think I've met one. They're all on crack. Like literally, they're all on crack.
For things like that to make sure they're going to be a good fit.
No insult to that industry whatsoever, but painters, it's a hard job. It's like roofers. Like they're all on drugs. They're all some of the hardest working people that have built this country, but yeah, a lot of them are on drugs. I mean, very hard to find a clean-cut guy that is painting.
The way that we keep quality control with all those teams, number one, we have a couple production managers that manage the projects. We make sure that everybody is trained on the SOPs. We have job site checklists. We have it in English and it's converted to Spanish. Everybody could read it. There's no misunderstanding or miscommunications, but we make sure that they feel good about it and that we're on the same page, so we're delivering a great product and a great experience for our customers.
Yeah, you set the expectation, right?
Yeah.
Because you're the one providing them with the opportunity.
That's right.
If somebody wanted to start a painting company today, Brandon, what do you recommend they do first?
Number one, you need to check with your state to see if you need a license, or if there's no license required, you need to make sure that you form a business, whether that's just a sole proprietorship or an LLC. And also, I would call somebody that does insurance, make sure you get at least liability insurance. We carry full workers' comp, so that's another one you'll probably want to look into before you start taking more advanced projects, whether it's residential or commercial. Those are big things to have just to protect yourself over time. My next recommendation would be, if you can afford it, I would recommend to invest.
Workers' comp is so expensive. You need to look into what state you're in. In some states, it's brutal, like California and New York. I mean, if you look in the southern states, it's actually not quite as bad, but workers' comp can be incredibly expensive, but it's a must-have. If someone gets hurt on the job, you have to be covered.
And systems and coaching, because that is just going to skyrocket how you learn to run a painting business, how you learn the pitfalls to avoid, and avoid shiny objects and things like that.
When it comes to SEO, Brandon, what kind of keywords are you targeting? What are some secrets for like local businesses to do well on PPC SEO on Google?
Sure. Well, we outsource our SEO, but I will say, like with keywords for painting, for example, we really try to look for like exterior painting in that specific city, or exterior house painter in that specific city. So every single service for us, cabinet painting, interior painting, exterior painting.
Those would be the keywords?
Yeah, those are going to be some of the primary keywords around that city, or near me is another one. So for us specifically, it could be, interior painter or professional painting company in Raleigh, NC, or, it's going to be a primary service surrounded with that city. As far as some tricks, like encourage getting.
If you have a home service business, that's what it is for all of them. It's junk removal Nashville. It's HVAC service Atlanta. That's literally the main one you want to work for. There's so many guys in the SEO space, whether they have an agency or if they have some other kind of bias, that try to say that the long tail keywords is where the money's at. I mean, you're not competing with all these other people, which is true. There's less competition, but listen, there's still competition. There's less competition, but there's still a good amount of competition. They know about it. Like, it's not like they've never heard of a long tail keyword before. They still know. And by the way, a long tail keyword is when someone does painting exterior for sheds in Raleigh. It's just a more specific keyword, and it's tapped out. Google understands this. You're not tricking the system by any means.
Authoritative backlinks, just continue to do good work, get reviews, and hire a professional who has a track record for results with SEO.
Let's go back to the SOPs, so customer service. So let's talk about in detail the second step, which I believe is validation.
Yeah. After the first step, after you've truly listened and you take notes, based on those notes, you repeat them back to the customer. And you're kind of matching their frustration with your own. When people feel heard and they...
By the way, you don't need to hire someone to do SEO for you. You can do that yourself. I mean, simply just make sure the website is clean, it's organized. Look what other people are doing. Look at what your biggest competitors are doing on their website. Copy that. And then make sure your name, your address, and your phone number is the NAP. Match your Google My Business page. Make sure your Google My Business page looks professional.
There's pictures of guys in polos, smiling, shaking clients' hands, doing the job with wrap vehicles, and have a clear call to action, make sure the funnel looks great, and then just send it. It's fine. You don't need an SEO partner. You don't need an agency. You can easily do that yourself. Just focus on getting reviews.
Feel like you're truly validating what they say, they almost like lower their guard a little bit first, and you can say powerful phrases.
You acknowledge.
Like that's unacceptable, or that's definitely not what you paid for. That's not the type of workmanship we're committed to. We're going to make this right. It seems simple, but authenticity and really, really validating exactly what they just said using powerful phrases, it goes a long way in that second step.
Brandon will share the last 2 steps later on in the video, but if you want to access the full SOP document right now and a live workshop with Brandon, click the link in the description below to download your copy. What's one decision you would say that helped you crest over the first $1 million in revenue?
Yeah, for me, it was making a decision to hire a business coach and invest in programs and systems, SOPs. That really helped skyrocket and expedite what I would have done the hard way, trying to figure it out on my own. But that was the best decision I ever made, was to invest in coaching and systems.
That investment is well worth it. That kind of ties us into the fact that you had an opportunity to check out the Upflip Academy.
Yes.
In my opinion, everything is free. It's on YouTube. You can find it. If you want someone to hold you accountable, then I think it's a good decision. But if it's for the information exists. You can find it online. It's 2025. But I 100%, good for him. He found someone that could get him in the right spot to grow his business. Good for him. He took initiative.
Different stages. What's your perspective? What's your take on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I think it's going to be an awesome platform where people can kind of go there and shortcut some of the solutions and problems that they're trying to do things the hard way. And so if I would have done it a little sooner, it would probably go above and beyond on your solutions. There's nothing wrong with making a customer too happy, and it's best to go above and beyond in your solutions and fall short of their expectations. This will always lead to more work, and that's just more work for your team, more stress for you. So at this point, when you've got the solution, I would get an agreement with them to make sure that that's good with them, and then I'd probably go a little bit above and beyond on that. The last part is follow through. So exactly what you said, you've got it written down.
One of the things that happens, and this is even with employees, is the client says one thing and then your employee says the other. It gets even more complicated when you don't have a relationship with the employee because you're contracting out the job. So, for example, your client says, hey, you guys didn't paint this in time. It wasn't done in time, and there's a big issue surrounding the time frame. And then one of your subcontractors is like, well, no, we did finish it in time, but we just had to get our stuff out. And they'll say no, and so you'll go back and forth. And when you have an employee, you have a level of trust built and rapport built with that employee. So you can go back to the client and say X, Y, and Z. But when it's a subcontractor, you can damage your reputation and your brand by trying to defend your employee. And you can't always do the customer's always right. That doesn't always work.
You have a plan of action with your team, and you follow through on exactly what you said you were going to do, and that's Integrity 101.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this episode, if you're enjoying all the insights that Brandon is sharing with all of us,
coatings, and after we were finished, they had electricians coming back in and other people, and next thing you know, the project manager's calling to say, hey, we got all these touch-ups for you. So all we really did was have a conversation with them, and we sent our project manager out there to take a look at it, and we just kept integrity. We were like, look, absolutely, in the contract it did say we would handle a couple touch-ups, but we also kind of let the guy know.
So it looks like you got a really big job here. One of the most fun things about being a business owner is you're fishing. You're constantly fishing. You're throwing a line in the water. Hopefully you're going to get a big fish. You might get a small snapper. You might get a salmon every once in a while. But every once in a while, you'll get a massive job that your margins are going to be insane on. And you're doing an office clean out. You're doing you're painting a brand new building. There's huge opportunity out there just by being in the game and throwing your hat in the ring, that eventually you submit a bid and you get these big $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 jobs. And it makes your whole year. And it's super fun. It's super exciting. It looks like you just got one of those big jobs, and I'm just stoked for him.
Hey, we're going to do a couple touch-ups, but this just can't be endless here. Right? So we did the right thing. We went over there and took care of it, but that was something outside of our normal comfort zone. And we ended up doing a great job there. They were very happy with it. But what we learned from that is just stay in your lane for the most part. There's plenty of work out there if you focus on what you're good at and try not to chase shiny objects too much. Because if you don't do enough research on that, if you don't make sure that the right payment terms, the right agreement terms,
with 18 things on their truck that's driving around doing drywall and painting and electrical. Be the guy that does one thing really well.
Place, and you kind of know that you've estimated it correctly. All those things will definitely help you not run into big problems and become unprofitable, or things like that.
Yeah, no, great advice. What's it like transitioning from being an employee to finally, being an entrepreneur?
I was making a little more money in the beginning, but everything was on my shoulders, right? In a 9-to-5, I just kind of did my job, and if something goes wrong, usually it falls on the manager or the owner or somebody else. In entrepreneurship and being a business owner, until you build a team, all problems are yours to deal with. But on the flip side of that, if you build a business the right way, there's a lot more reward. Eventually, you'll make a lot more money. You'll buy back your time, have a lot more freedom of your time, and be able to pursue other things you enjoy in your life. But like most things in life, great reward comes some risk.
Yes. How do you secure commercial contracts?
Try to see if you can get with the people that make some decisions there and see what their needs are. How often they usually paint, were they happy with their last experience, and just try to do a value forward. Like, here's what we can provide for you guys. We have quick turnaround, we get warranties with our work, whatever you can do to try to add value in that instead of just asking for work.
Gotcha. Is there a reason you guys don't do more commercial, or that's just hasn't been the business model to start with?
So my mentality was, let's just be the absolute best we can be in residential, scale that out. We'll take light commercial jobs as they come and when they're the right opportunity. And when the time is right, we'll actually pursue more bigger commercial.
There's so many people that say, if you're not doing commercial, you're missing out on all this money. Commercial can be just as big of a headache as residential.
How do you keep your staff, team motivated and productive?
Well, as far as our team, we definitely incentivize certain things, like when they get 5-star reviews. We give our team bonuses for when they get reviews. Sales reps are incentivized on commissions, so they get a salary plus a commission. So once they sell a certain deliverable, every dollar past that, they get a commission. With our crews and our painting team, like our production managers will take them up.
The way he set up the incentives, and the first thing he said, you could tell was one of the most important things, which is reviews. I mean, we really can't double click on that enough. The reviews that your business get, you need to be calling, texting, doing every single thing you can for the clients that were happy about your product or service to get a review. Because the more reviews you get, the higher you show up on Google, the more jobs you get, the more money you make. That was the first thing he said. When he brought up incentive, the first thing he said was, we want to get more reviews. Here's what we're doing to get our guys to incentivize the clients to get more reviews for our business.
To lunch or bring them drinks and just keep them excited for the next job they have coming. Like ensuring them and just giving them that confidence that we've got your back definitely helps them stay motivated.
What about like team effort, building activities? Do you do anything like that just to be friends and hang out after work?
100%, man. So we'll go out to, our team will go to the Carolina Hurricanes hockey games. So that's a thing we do with our employees. We do that multiple times a year. That just builds good culture and being good human beings to people.
Little things go a long, long way. Right?
Absolutely.
What's the mindset shift that every entrepreneur needs? What do you think?
Well, for me, I think it's, if people discovered what they're truly capable of, I think
that balance is so difficult for so many different people. You don't want to be their friends because then I promise you, they'll start showing up late. There will be issues. You have to have the boss-employee relationship, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun with them. That doesn't mean you can't go bowling. It doesn't mean you can't go get a beer, go to a Preds game, go to a Carolina game. Like, why not? I mean, it's a lot of fun, but just make sure you keep that relationship intact and you don't go too far down the line of staying up late past 10 p.m. with them and getting hammered, because they will look at you differently and they will take what you say with a grain of salt. It's just true. It's just how it works.
They'd simply astonish themselves. I think if you just keep believing in that dream, you keep visualizing it, if you believe it, you can definitely make it happen. So that's, I think, the mindset that entrepreneurs should have is like, let me see what else is possible. Let me see what else I'm capable of. I believe I can achieve more. And just keep visualizing it. Whatever that is, write it down. Just believe in it.
What's one perception of wealth for you personally that turned out not to be true?
Yeah.
Can you think of anything?
I think for me, I always thought that if I got wealthy or had a lot of money, I might change. There's this whole sense of like people that got money, it changes them and they become entitled and all that stuff. And for me, that's just not the case. I've been able to be more generous. I think it's just really helped me grow in all areas.
All right, that's about it. Super impressive. This guy is killing it. I mean, incredibly impressive. For a painting company to get to $4 million, there are probably 3 painting companies in every big metro outside of the huge metros that are doing that much. So incredibly impressive. Huge ups to him. He didn't even go the franchise model. He did it himself locally. Very impressive. You're killing it, man.